What's up, bees?
Hello.
Welcome to the Brit on Blast podcast, where we put everything and anything on blast. What is this week's roundup, Britton?
We are talking about brain food, basically what we feed our mind and how we can control that, and also like how to break some patterns and habits that we have when we start getting in a mental downward spiral. Mm-hmm. Also the connection between our brain and our body and how important it is to take care of both. I think that self-talk is something that is inevitable. We talk to ourselves all day long. Mm-hmm. And so what are we talking about? What are we telling our brain? And just the benefits of maybe redirecting those thoughts to positive ones, and also taking care of our body and our mind so that we can, live out our purpose and be the best possible humans that we can be.
To just feel good. I mean, it would be nice to feel good physically and mentally so that we could go out and like really be the best that we can be for others and for ourselves. It's that whole thing of putting your face mask on before helping or assisting anybody else. I really loved this episode because we gave you not only long-term fixes, which we haven't done. We did some things that we shared some thoughts about how you could really, and science-based thoughts of how you could really improve your gut health, in turn your nervous system and also your brain long-term. And then we also gave you quick fixes because if you are anything like I was in the last month, I was just having this, I could not get out of this spiral. And it really helped me to be able to quickly turn it off and just be like, okay, no, we need to redirect. And so you have short-term and long-term fixes here. And I'm really excited to hear if y'all use any of them.
Yeah, so let's do it.
I am so excited for this month for so many reasons. I love Halloween, but also it is Mental Health Awareness Month. And we have told you guys over and over again, it's all about mindset. I think that when it comes to just like the day-to-day of your mental health, there are a lot of things that you can do that can really help you. And there's a lot of things, we talk a lot about mindset, we talk a lot about exercise, but we don't talk a lot about nutrition. And so I really wanted to jump into that conversation. We're working on some killer guests to bring on too, to really dive deep into balancing hormones and gut health and everything like that. And I know we talk about game day mentality and think positive thoughts, don't give into negativity, create good habits. That was one of them. But when you're in the cycle of negativity, whether it's consumption, thoughts, or behavior, it can be really hard to, stop point blank and redirect yourself. It's a lot easier said than done, and it's a constant practice. And what I found is that through like health and nutrition, I have also been able to manage it a little bit better because I have stabilized things like, as women, we have to stabilize our hormones the best that we can. And I think we were talking about my heart palpitations that I was having last month. And this month I'm not having those because I've been really strict about, and I'm not talking about diet. Okay. I'm talking about my body doesn't function well when I eat gluten. And sometimes I'm like, I can have that pizza. I don't want to be an inconvenience to everybody here. And I'm not doing that anymore. It's like, no, I do not have gluten. It makes me sick. And if I can have a bite of it and I won't feel anything, but like long term, if I continue to incorporate it, I can see like the flow, my mood, everything. So yeah, I think that's like a big thing. We have two pieces of this for you. It's really about redirecting your thoughts and behaviors in the moment, and then feeding your brain the nourishment it needs to create new, better patterns so that you can really catch yourself when it's necessary.
Yeah. So what we feed our brain and our mental state and like our self-talk is just as important as what we feed our bodies to fuel them to keep going. I always think about like, I know I've used this prior, but like, if we are a car and we don't like service our car and we don't put the good gas and oil in it, it's just not going to operate. It's not going to run. It's not going to be able to get us from A to B. If it is, it's making noise. It's clanking. It's squeaking. It's embarrassing. It's just not functioning. So, we want to treat our bodies like Lamborghinis. We want to keep them like, fueled with the best gas, oiled up, great breaks, all of those things. And the same goes for our mind. What we feed our mind is so important for our efficiency and how we're functioning and just what we can accomplish in the world. It's just like our overall health. It's like they're two separate things, but they are so interconnected. And so we call this episode Brain Food, and I love that because it's just such an easy way to grasp it. But like Britt said, we're going to talk about a few things. So redirecting our thoughts and behaviors in the moment. So once we get into a negative cycle and what we're feeding our brain is negative and bad and critical, we need to stop that in its tracks and then shift. And so redirecting our thoughts and behaviors in the moment is breaking through that pattern. So ask yourself, is this something that I want to memorize?
This is really an area where I've been struggling lately. And I think that this is where you get into like, how do you have the quick fix? Okay. The second piece that we're going to talk about, which is like nourishing and feeding your brain, that's really like your long-term. You're not going to notice any results from that until like a week or 2 weeks or 4 weeks, however long. It needs to be a consistent thing that you do. Whereas with this is a quick fix. You can turn it around really quickly. And my dad actually brought this up to me. I was venting about something and I was just super frustrated. And he goes, "You're done venting." And I was like, "Fuck you, Dad. Like, I'm not done venting. You don't get to tell me." And he was like, No, I don't mean it in a bad way. I mean, like, you're just memorizing what you're saying. So like, if this is the thing you want to repeat over and over and over again, if you're going to like, what you speak of and think repeatedly, you memorize. He's like, "I don't mean to be rude. I just mean that like, is this the thing you want to memorize?" So then that was like a week ago or 5 days ago or something like that. And I was like, okay, so now I'm going to ask myself that all the time. So if I'm having a negative thought, I'll ask myself, is this something I want to memorize? And for some reason, usually the answer is no, because it's just a waste of space. I think, we can dramatize things. I definitely can do that. And like, I can over exaggerate things and make things seem bigger than they are. Sometimes things just do seem bigger than they are. And because I'm saying no to this thing, it stops the thought pattern. And whether it's a true thought or it's not a true thought, your brain doesn't know where to pick back up. So what was happening is I would have these negative thoughts, or I would have these like unnecessary thought processes. And I would be like, is this something I want to memorize? And whether it was true or not, I would say like, no, usually. And then I would just be like, yeah, I don't remember what I was even thinking about. Like, it totally stopped my brain from I couldn't even pick back up where I had left off.
Yeah, it's like you can be memorizing these negative thoughts, or you can be like memorizing positive ones. And I think, for me, it's like avoid ruminating, which happens to me all the time. And I'll, after a situation or a social setting or something, and I think this happens for a lot of people, you replay upsetting or cringeworthy thoughts or events over and over again. And thinking, like, to be clear, thinking about a problem or a situation can be really beneficial so that like how to adjust or not to repeat that if it was something that was negative. But it's when we spend time ruminating, something so small can then become magnified and making it a bigger issue than it needs to be. Typically, they're small issues, and then we just ruminate or we memorize and it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, and that fuels anxiety. So like Britt said, catch yourself in this cycle. Be realistic about the issue. Is it a small issue that is snowballing into something bigger? If so, stop yourself in your tracks and ask yourself, is this what I want to memorize? Is this what I want to be saying to myself? And when you were telling me this, because we always talk about our topics, I was like, it's like a song. It's like, is this a track that I want to have on repeat throughout my whole entire day? If not, hit next and play a different song, like hit a different track. You don't have to have the song on repeat. You can have it on shuffle at least. Right. Or put a like uplifting track on.
It's like, I don't know if you guys remember when Taylor Swift's album came out. I think it was like Cardigan or something like that. It was the one with the gray album cover, and it was like so sad. Like, it was just such a sad album. And the whole joke in the media was like, X amount of girls breaking up with their boyfriends this weekend after listening to the Taylor Swift album. And it's like, well, yeah, because you're listening to it and you're like, there's some truth in that, or there isn't some truth in that, or like you're relating to it, or you're trying to relate to it. And like, it just doesn't have to be like, just detach yourself from all of that stuff. And I think by asking yourself, is this something I want to memorize? You're detaching yourself. It's the opposite. And this is what it is. My therapist when I get really bad anxiety, she recommends that I start stating things that cannot be disproven. So like, my hair is brown, I'm 6 feet tall. Like, I'll go through, my name is Britt. Like, I go through the list of things that are true and they cannot be taken. Nobody can disprove those things. Those are facts. And it's the same kind of and then it makes you feel really grounded. It's almost like the reverse of that. You're saying like, do I want to memorize this? Is this thing even true? And it's whether or not it's true, you can just step away from it and be like, I don't even know what's going on here. I'm out.
Right. Even if it is true, but it doesn't have to be a situation that you replay in your head over and over and over again. Like, you don't need to carry it around. We're always talking about shedding and letting go. And like, this is one of those things. And if you are someone, and I feel like we are those people that like kind of replay things over and over again, like, make it a positive thing. Yeah. Change that tune.
Yep. I think another really big thing for me is challenging your consumption. And this is something that I've been doing lately. I'm single. I live alone. Like, I spend a lot of time in front of a book, TV, like lone time tasks. You know what I mean? Like, and I was asking myself recently, and I know we've been talking about this a little bit, but it's like, I've been having a hard time finding joy again. And what I've realized is it's because I'm spending a lot of time consuming TV shows. I'm spending a lot of time consuming social media. I'm not educating myself like I used to do, which was like, I would go on and, Skillshare or whatever, and I would learn new things because I kind of feel like, and it's not that I know everything. It's just like the parts of my business that I used to educate myself on, I don't feel the need to educate myself there anymore. So I'm kind of in a weird spot right now with that. And I'm not getting outside because it's been so hot. And I'm lazy. Apparently, I've been lazy lately. And I think we just live in a society that's overstimulating. You have phones, computers, tablets, TVs, constant advertising. So it's just, I think, important to consume mindfully. This means media, entertainment, and content. I started asking myself, I did like a little trick sort of a situation where I moved my, you have to swipe 5 times now to get to my Instagram app on my phone. So I have an iPhone. And so it makes it really inconvenient for me to get to it. And because I did that, it actually makes me like think about if by the time I get there, I've had time to think like, do I actually need to go to the Instagram app? Like, is it for work or am I just unintentionally going on social media right now? And a lot of times it's that I'm unintentionally going on social media. It's a habit. And so just being able to note and then like following up with that of like, if I did open the app just to see what everybody's up to, then it's like, okay, but how is that making me feel to see what everybody's up to? Like, is it making me sad that people are in Greece and I feel left out? Or like, is it making me sad to see like other businesses doing more or better than I'm doing? Like, is it bringing me joy or not? And sadly, the answer is usually it's not.
Right. I think, you hit the nail on the head where it's like, we live in a society that is so overstimulating. So naturally, we feel like we need to be stimulated at all times. So when we're at home and we do have that quiet moment where our brain has like a quick second to just be, we pick up our phone and we immediately stimulate it again. Well, when we're overstimulated, so when we have zero alone time, zero quiet thoughts, we don't know how to just be with ourselves. We're going to be irritable and anxious. And think of like society as a whole. I think that we're all a little irritable. We're all in a hurry. We're all anxious. We stand in line. We have 1 second like to wait for our coffee or to look at like we know what we're getting and we just get on our phones. Everyone's looking down to be stimulated because we can't just be. So the best way to reduce this stimulation and to like kind of control this overstimulation of our minds and our bodies and everything in our senses is to control the environment around you. So turn down the volume on the TV, turn your phone on Do Not Disturb. If you're in a place that you don't have control of the environment, the best thing to do is like gain awareness. And something that your therapist was telling you is like grounding. Maybe say things that are true. Make yourself feel like it's in control and just like slow everything down to know that, your focus is inward and that you are okay and you're safe and you don't have to be constantly overstimulated while the environment around us and, society as a whole is constantly blasting stuff in our face. We have to actively make the decision to turn our focus inward and to be okay to be by ourselves. So create that for yourself.
All right, so you guys know that I live for Western wear, specifically my boots and my hat. So I want to talk a little bit about a brand new brand that is new to Reno, Nevada. and is from our beautiful babe over here. So Britton, tell us what Murdock's is.
Well, first of all, hats have been one of my truest loves since I was a kid. I swear I had a hat on in every single picture as a child. And then they quickly became a BLFT signature. We couldn't find the hat that was just perfect. And so we decided to design our own. Murdock's is a family brand that started in the great state of Nevada in the 1950s. My great-grandparents started Murdock's Western wear. Fast forward 60 years, the Murdock sisters recreate this homegrown brand by curating a hat line that embodies the spirit of Nevada. We were raised in this amazing state, and we watched a Nevadan's ability to put in a hard day's work on the ranch, followed by a hard night's play at the casinos. We pulled inspiration from the everyday beauty around us, the sunsets, Lake Tahoe, the mountains, and the forest.
I'm not gonna lie, I have full body chills right now because you hit so many nails on the head just now. Like, there's nothing that screams Reno, Nevada more than family and community and a little bit of Western. So the fact that you put all of our favorite things together and then you made it all about like bringing back the roots of your family brings me so much joy. Y'all need to check out Murdock's hats. Where do you find them?
Murdock'sHatsAndApparel.com.
We love it. Go shop, y'all.
So Britt, why intentional candles for mental health?
Because building healthy habits around your intentions can have a positive impact on not only your mental health, but your overall productivity. I wanted to create a premium non-toxic candle that reminded my customers that life is complex and we can live in the and space. Talking about mental health and mental illness doesn't always have to be scary or depressing. Sometimes it can be fun and enlightening. We are wildly unique and expansive creatures, as we've talked about on the podcast before, and we can be many things in a day. And sometimes we just need to light a candle to remind ourselves who the fuck we are and what we are capable of.
I 100% agree with that. Plus, your candles smell so good and they fill up my whole house. I hear you have something special for our listeners.
I do. I have a little promo for our bees. Y'all can head to havenandflux.com and use code BOB20 at checkout to get 20% off your order. I hope y'all enjoy. I think like a good thing to also add in here, and I wonder if anybody else, I think you mentioned that you've done this before, but what I was also noting was that like I started watching movies again instead of watching like at the end of the night. If I have enough time, I'll watch a movie. And so I would like find myself like rewinding a ton because shows the context, like you have so long to consume it. So you're not feeling like you need to rewind. You're not really feeling like you're missing too much. The quality of the shows is not great these days, I would say.
Mm-hmm. There's just so much out there.
Right.
They just like put so much stuff up there and it's like, it's all bad.
Right. And so what would happen is I would get to like an uncomfortable scene where like somebody would be like doing something cringy or like I would feel like uncomfortable with whatever was happening on the TV and I would look at my phone and I would miss what was happening. So I was using my phone as a distraction from like something else. So I was like consuming two things at once because one thing was making me uncomfortable and the other thing was supposed to distract me, but then that thing was making me uncomfortable. And then I was like in this weird, gross cycle where I was just like
constantly escaping.
Yeah. I was like, I can't constantly be like running from my problems. Like you need to figure out how to make yourself feel safe in those moments so that you're not trying to use your phone as a way to escape. And then what I noticed is I do that at breakfast with my parents. If I don't like what my dad is saying, I pick up my phone. If I don't like what my mom is saying, I pick up my phone. I do it in business meetings. If I don't like, and my mom pointed this out to me, I hum. I've done this since I was a kid. When I don't like what somebody's saying, or I don't like want to be where I'm at anymore, I start to hum like a tune.
Being your parent would have been like, why are you humming?
I give my parents a lot of shit, but like my parents putting up with me had to have been really hard. Like my brother was like the governor. Like he was the kindest, sweetest, most loving, funny, hilarious, amazing son. He was just like the fucking star. Like everything he touched turned to gold. And then me, I was like a nightmare. Tell me I can't do something and I'm like, I'm doing it anyway. Like you can't, I have to like warn people sometimes that I get into a relationship with. I'll be like, I need you to not tell me no. Like tell me like maybe, because then I might listen to you. But like if you tell me no, I'm going to do the thing.
Yeah.
Like I will 100% just do it because you said I can't.
I mean, that actually will probably pay off in the long run. And it has obviously paid off because you're wildly successful. But yeah, no, I think that that makes a lot of sense. When you're watching TV, we're constantly doing something else. So we're not actually decompressing or, escaping our day by like watching an awesome movie or something. We're actually doing like 4 things at once. We're on our phone. We're escaping what's on the screen to escape what's on our phone. It's just like this big, horrible thing. So I think the takeaway from that is like, be aware of what you're consuming, be aware of what you're taking in and what you're allowing, because again, our capacity is only so big. So you're only you're only able to take in so much. What do you want that to be? Do you want it to be like educational, good, like soul food? Or do you want it to be like just distractions?
Right. A story. I mean, that's why reading is so fantastic, because you're challenging your mind. You're learning new words. I'm reading Carrie Soto is Back. It's a super good book that just came out. It's by the same author who did Malibu Rising, which if you haven't read that, you should also read that. But her books really challenge your mind. And this book that I'm reading, the dad speaks in Spanish occasionally, and it's written Spanish, and it's words that I don't, because it's like Spaniard Spanish. And so there are words that I don't understand, and I'm like learning Spanish again. And I'm like, oh, this is like really valuable thing to do. And I'm enjoying that far more than I am watching TV right now.
I love the idea of reading, because that's the only thing that you can do at the time. When you watch TV, you can be doing so many other things, and you're not truly watching TV. It's just another stimulation going on in the background at this point. Yeah, I love that.
All right, so let's get into nourishing your brain. And that really starts with the body. And I know that Britton and I have talked about that a lot. I mean, I will go on the record and say exercise is my antidepressant. So, I just wanted to jump into, we did quite a bit of research on this, because I am wildly fascinated with gut health. And I think we're going to be just bringing you guys a lot more content about that, and kind of teaching you what we're learning. So let's cover some brain basics before we jump into all of this. So a lot of this information is from mindful.org. The brain and the spinal cord make up the nervous system. Those are basically composed of millions of nerve cells, also known as neurons. They speak to each other back and forth between the brain and the body. So they're constantly communicating with each other. This basically is the nervous system being bilingual. It can speak both electrically and chemically. So when neurons, which are again those nerve cells, are stimulated, an electrical impulse is created. This eventually leads to the transmission of chemical substances called neurotransmitters. I'm sure you guys have heard that word before. You probably have no idea what it means. So those are basically like dopamine, serotonin, stuff like that. So we know those play a huge role in our mood functioning. You hear that all the time, among a lot of other things. But essentially, this is the scientific infrastructure for the chatter. And again, I think chatter is becoming like a really buzzworthy thing right now. I know there's a book I have on my wish list to read about it, but this is the scientific infrastructure for the chatter that occurs in our brains. It's important to understand, because being mindful of the internal orchestration of our internal states means we are being mindful of the nourishment of our brains. So you kind of can't have one without the other. And the latest scientific research shows that neuroplasticity, which is the idea that the brain can recognize itself based on experience, it can reorganize itself based off of experience. It makes it very impossible for lifestyle to play. I'm sorry, you guys. I am like having such a hard time right now. This is our second episode that we've recorded today, but let me retry that. The latest scientific research shows the neuroplasticity, which is the idea that the brain can reorganize itself based on experience, makes it very possible for lifestyle to play a big role in maintaining and improving brain function. So all of these things that is like the scientific explanation of why we're constantly preaching exercise, why we're constantly preaching mindfulness, why we're constantly preaching therapy, because the connection between the gut, the brain, and the nervous system is all linked. So you can't really have like one without taking care of the other.
Totally. You can't the health of your body directly correlates with the health of your brain and vice versa. And the communication between the two is so essential. And so if one thing is off, then the whole rig is off. But your brain is so powerful. So, now that you know the science behind it and like how it communicates and neurotransmitters and all of that, and, dopamine and serotonin are released based off of what you do with your body. And that is like, the happy drug. That is like that is what drug addicts get addicted to, is that release in their brain. And so if we can get that naturally by just taking care of our body, we're going to live a lot healthier and therefore longer life. So the first thing that we have is, therapy. Therapy is exercise for the brain. Therapy is a way, it is like so unbelievably beneficial to go to therapy. Show up for it. Be brutally honest with your therapist. And I love this because, it might not be the first or second or third therapist that you connect with, but just continually show up and go back for that. Because when you find the right one, it's like finding the right personal trainer or finding the right workout that works for you and your body and that you gain the most benefits from. Your muscle tone starts to show when you go to Pilates, for example, or running. Maybe that's your thing. But just keep trying on things because it's not a one size fits all. Not every therapist is going to be great for every single person. So, being open to it, and just first of all, if you're someone that thinks that you don't need therapy, you're probably the person that does.
You need it the most.
So keep searching until you find that one therapist. And, being able to say things out loud in therapy is just therapeutic in itself. They have a way of saying things to you that you can cling on to. And over time, they can change the lens that you see the world from.
I'll be honest with you. I remember, so I've had a lot of therapists in my life. One of which prescribed me 20 milligrams of Lexapro after 1 hour of sitting with me and my ex-husband. But, there are really fantastic therapists in the world, and there are people who really want to help you. And what I remember is if you go into therapy with the mindset that I want to feel better, I want to get better, I want to be the best version of myself, and you want to really solve these problems. And if you are going in with that mindset into therapy, then you're going to get the most out of it. And you are going to challenge the therapist and say like, hey, maybe you're not the one for me. For me, my therapist calls me on my shit in a way that like nobody else is allowed to do. And it's not that it's that I don't allow people in life to do that, because I've always felt like, I don't know, I can be a pretty defensive person at times, which is something that my therapist and I are working on. But like, she can I can see it in her face sometimes where she's like, and I needed that because I know a lot of, there's a lot of like HIPAA laws and like things that they're not supposed to do and things that they are supposed to do. But I already feel the energy in a space. So if I don't see your face reflecting what I'm feeling in the room, then I'm already upset. Like I'm already, now I'm going to shut down and I'm not going to respond to you. So my favorite thing is my therapist will do this grin and she'll tilt her head to the side, and that's her challenging me. She doesn't say anything. And then I already know I have to redirect where I'm going because I know she's about to call me on. So if I don't fix it myself immediately, she's about to call me on it and tell me something. And I think that's valuable.
Right. I think that having a relationship with your therapist, or just being able to let your guard down, and, in a world that we're so conditioned to be these certain people, and in our own brains, we're making ourselves, level up in all these different ways. It's a person that you can just talk to, and a person that you can be real with and talk about those deep feelings that you have inside of you that no one knows. And so, establishing a relationship with your therapist is huge. I think that for me, like I said, it changes the lens in the way I see the world. And that's definitely been something that I've taken over time. But it's the little things that I take away from every single session that make me understand myself better and therefore make me a better person. So going to therapy is so essential for your brain health and your overall body health. The second thing that we are going to talk about is the mindful memorizations. Yeah. So this is a big one. I made this term up after what my dad had said, because it's one thing to be mindful, right? I think that like we hear that word is probably like a little bit overused at this point. You can think of mindfulness as, a gratitude journal. It could be a meditation practice. It could be a lot of different things, but you're basically just like brainwashing yourself. And so it goes back to like, what do you want to memorize? And, obviously guided meditations can be really helpful with that. I think this also is really important to remember, like, what kind of a person are you? What sort of space do you work best in? So for me, like, I'm very visual and tactile, so I need to write things down
that was a big game changer for me. I started brain dumping every single positive thing that is happening and has happened to me to remind myself that like I've come a long way. I've done a lot of hard work and I'm really proud of myself. And then I started saying, like, I followed it up with the things that I know that I'm capable of. So I'm starting with these things that I've done that have been great, that I am like working on, and then things that I know that I'm capable of accomplishing and that I feel confident that are going to be something that I can move forward with and tiny steps I can take.
I think that brain dumping the positive things is such a good tool to use, because like gratefulness is just the core of happiness. So when you start, like, you could have a million things going wrong in your life, but if you shift that and like say, okay, well, I'm grateful for, and it can be the most simple things, your whole outlook is going to change. And like you said, you're going to learn things that you're capable of, and you're going to reiterate that in your head. I always think of like the inner critic inside. I have to physically, mentally strong arm that inner critic out and brainwash it into thinking that it's actually positive, because, you know, we can be so hard on ourselves. Like, what woman doesn't look in the mirror and just immediately start picking herself apart? It's like you have to strong arm that inner critic out of your head. And so by brainwashing your inner critic and turning it into positive self-talk and into gratefulness, you're going to like just be able to move on in your day a lot smoother, like in everything just come together. Like, we talk about the holistic health, but it's so important because I think that sometimes we're not even aware of it. Yeah. And so first and foremost, you have to become aware of what you're telling yourself, and then you have to change it.
Another one is like mental stimulation, which we're about to get into. And I think it does come down to that. It's like mentally stimulating yourself in a way that is like very encouraging towards yourself. And we're not telling you to be blind to your imperfections or be blind to the things that like
you want to
change or you want to be better at. What we're telling you is that there is a very highly likelihood that you are looking in the mirror and you're upset because your hips don't look the way that you want your hips to look. That isn't a fucking positive thing to do. And it's not useful. It's not a useful source of your thoughts. It's not a useful source of your time. Like, it's not necessary to do that. So I think in that situation, it's like, how are you stimulating your mind? And if you were to look in the mirror and look for the things that were positive about yourself, you know, you would probably recognize that there's 20 things you like, and maybe you just don't like your hips. And like, and that's
okay. We're not going to like everything, such as life.
You're not perfect. We can't like expect that you should be, and you shouldn't expect that you should be. And these are just, again, like, you know,
just ways to get there.
Britton, tell us what BLFT is all about, because you know it's my favorite place to shop.
The Biggest Little Fashion Truck is a family-owned and operated boutique on wheels. We got started 5 years ago because I had this deep desire to make women feel more confident. And I found out that one of the many ways you can enhance your confidence was through clothing. Hence our why, confidence through clothing.
We love some confidence in our lives.
We pride ourselves in bringing back that old school expertise in customer service by providing an experience, whether it be at our pop-up events around town.
We love the pop-up events. I'm at those with her all the time, and they are fire.
Or we have a storefront, the Babe Cave. We just want each and every babe to feel better and be ready to be seen after shopping with us. Shop us online at the Babe Cave or our pop-up events at local businesses around town. We can't wait to see you. And a little something special we have for you. Use promo code BOB20 for 20% off your purchase online.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna be shopping today.
You're enjoying this episode on Angel Phoenix Productions Podcast Network. To explore a complete lineup of quality programs and media production services, head on over to angelphoenix.com or like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Angel Phoenix Productions.
The mental stimulation. So challenge your brain somehow. We talk about the mind-body connection with exercise that obviously Britt and I thrive on. And it is a non-negotiable in my day. I always say sweat for mental health.
Yep.
But there's a lot of ways that you can stimulate yourself mentally, like do a puzzle. I know it sounds really weird, but like do something that you're not typically used to doing, like learn something new. Learning for me, I always I can sit there and consume things, but until I have to teach it, I don't truly grasp it. So learn and then try to teach it to someone or reiterate it to someone. Put yourself in social settings that you haven't been before. That is stimulating mentally. So that's going to make you step out of your comfort zone, and it's going to stimulate you in a way that now you have new skills. So just constantly keep working and stretching your brain.
I think right here in mental stimulation, you're looking for a safe discomfort. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations that are safe, that are also, that to be true, that they are safe. I think we talk a lot about anxiety in a way that is I just cannot go to that thing because I have social anxiety. Yeah, I have social anxiety. I walk into a room and at 6 feet tall, everybody stares. I don't enjoy that at all in any way, shape, or form. I don't want eyes on me, but I do it anyway because it's necessary for me to do it. And it usually means that I'm getting to meet new people, or so again, you're just outweighing all of these things, and read a book, learn something about opposing genuinely learn something about an opposing opinion. Genuinely try to listen to what somebody else has to say that is different from your views, and see if there's anything that you can learn from that. I think that that's a really good way to stimulate your brain and be open to maybe new things. Imagine the development that you could build on your own opinions to say that would either root you further down in your own opinions, or that could potentially expand your opinions in a really beautiful way.
Absolutely. I think that, having a conversation with someone and listening, active listening is really, really hard to do.
Yeah.
People don't do it.
Nope.
I mean, I know this personally. I pride myself on being a good and empathetic listener, but it does take a lot of work and it takes a lot of energy, but that's mentally stimulating. So like you said, hear opposing view and listen.
I mean, I learned the other day that in social settings that I'm uncomfortable in, I actually turn into a horrible listener. I turn into this monster of one-upping and comparison because I don't know. I'm so uncomfortable. And I stepped away from that, and I could have been oh, I didn't feel seen, or I didn't feel like anybody really wanted me there. And then I stepped away from that thing and I was I didn't really want to be there. And I didn't really engage in that conversation in a way that felt really true and honest to myself, because I didn't get the chance to listen to anybody because I wouldn't shut the fuck up. Think of those things when you step away from situations. How can you grow and develop within each situation and become better?
Right. I mean, I think that's it's hard. It's not always easy, but it doesn't have to be something that's so intense or over the top. You can literally stimulate yourself by simply just listening.
Yeah.
So do a puzzle, learn something new, teach something new, listen, work out. All those things are stimulating. The next thing we're going to talk about, and this is a biggie. This is and we're going to hopefully do a whole episode on this one day, because this is just, there's so much research coming out about it. And any time in the medical field that it's research is coming out 20 years or less, it's considered new. And so this was 2004 that they really started to tie these two things together. So we're going to talk about gut health and the mind and gut health and that connection. So this info is according to johnhopkinsmedicine.org. We've all had those times where we've gone with our gut to make a decision or felt butterflies in our stomach when we're nervous. This is us getting signals from what they consider our second brain. In the walls of our digestive system, this brain in your gut is revolutionizing medicine's understanding of the links between digestion, mood, health, and even the way we think. Scientists call this little brain the enteric nervous system, or the ENS. And the ENS is two thin layers of more than 100 million nerve cells lining our gastrointestinal tract from the esophagus to our rectum. So scientists believe that these two brains communicate to each other. So therapies that traditionally, this is huge. So therapies that traditionally have helped one brain are likely to help the other. So we're considering our gut our second brain. So for example, some doctors prescribe antidepressants for IBS because the studies show that the gut-brain connection is so strong that by treating it one way, it may lead to minimizing symptoms of the other.
This is like, so when I first met my ex-husband, I did not want to be in the relationship. And I don't know, like, that sounds so silly because people are like, you spent 10 years with a man. Like, what do you mean you didn't want to be in a relationship? I was 18 years old. I had just moved to a new city. I wasn't familiar with anything. He looked like the all-American dream. And I thought that's what I was supposed to do that thing. Like I was supposed to follow that thing. And as I, everything that he did went against all of my values that I grew up knowing. Like, they ate very unhealthily. His family did. Like they truly believed that pizza was like healthy because it had like the 5 food groups. If you had meat on it, like if you put veggies and meat on it, then it would have been the 5 food groups. And I was like, this is still not like a healthy meal. I had been introduced to fast food because I grew up in Tahoe, so we didn't have access to fast food. In Incline, there was only Subway. That was our fast food. Oh, and Starbucks, but it was before Starbucks had food. They just had like the pastries. And so, that. And then I was under like a severe amount of stress. So I met him when I was 18. I kept trying to get out of the relationship. I finally started to I think it was like 19 where I realized like, okay, I'm not going to be able to get out of this relationship. I'm going to be like, I think I'm going to stay. Like he had kind of convinced me that I needed him. And that like I loved him. And so I basically like started developing really horrible gastrointestinal issues that like I was going to the emergency room for. I would wake up and I like couldn't walk. I had to like remain in the fetal position. I was like violently ill all the time. I would eat and within 2 hours it was like coming out of me in one way or the other. Like I could not keep food in my body, but I was also gaining weight like so fast. And so I went to a bunch of different doctors and eventually they decided this was when celiac was becoming like more common and people, not common. It was just like that people were learning about it. And so I got diagnosed with celiac for about a year. It was like a year and a half. I lived as a celiac, or with celiac. And, but then we found out that I'm actually really, truly allergic to brown rice. And so it turns out I was eating a lot of the substitutes for gluten are brown rice. And so I was still getting sick. Then I went back to just a normal diet, stopped eating brown rice, and I was still getting sick. So through this entire marriage, I would have episodes until I started traveling for Goriana. I was having severe stomach issues, like severe. And when I started learning about this stuff, and it's why I'm so passionate about like your body and like the way that you treat your insides and like how the stresses impact on the body, I realized that the entire time it was stress because I was so anxious and I didn't know how to escape. And there was no escape for me. There was no way for me to escape the stress. No matter where I was, there he was. And there I was like trapped with him. And so I just constantly felt really stressed. So I just wanted to share that because I feel like I've had like living, breathing experience with this.
Yeah, that's like a very extreme example. And like, I'm so sorry that you had to go through that, but it's so true. Our brain's health is tied to our gut health in so many ways and vice versa. So you were going through extreme trauma and you knew, like your brain knew that you were in a situation that you didn't want to be in and it exposed itself through your gut.
Yep.
I think, it goes, like I said, the gut to like the gone with your gut feeling or the butterflies in your stomach. I've always been someone who like gets really amped for games and like for events and stuff like that. And like, sometimes I used to like throw up.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was just so pumped and so excited, and like the adrenaline and like the nerves just made me, it's like, it's all connected.
It's like, just your nervous system isn't able to handle a certain, that level of stress. And like now I know when it's happening to me and my mom will I'll be getting sick. It just happened again. I was getting sick and I was like, oh shit, here it is. Like I'm really stressed. I got to start rooting back down into like my mental health and into my diet and make sure that I'm like getting things back on track again. Cause poor gut health, elicited by dysbiosis. It's basically a shift away from the normal gut microbiota diversity, which is just like your microbiome in your gut, may contribute to disease. It has been implicated in neurological and neuropsychiatric disorders. So that's anything from like Alzheimer's to dementia. And there's now research that suggests that depression and anxiety are mediated by poor gut health as well. So it's really important that you guys are you know, as much as we talk about mindfulness, we talk about all these external things that you can do, you know, journaling, praying, meditating, whatever it is that you do. It also has internal, no matter how much I did those things during the time when I was getting sick, I was still getting sick because like it was my body's fight or flight response. My nervous system was literally like, get out of this situation, like get out. And I wasn't listening. So we put together some ways that you can actually help with your gut, just some basics. And we're going to jump further into this as we go along. But you want to reduce consumption of excess sugars and refined carbs. That's really like where I think the gluten thing comes in for me. Like, I just think anytime I combine sugar and gluten, I immediately get sick. Like, my body just can't handle it. I think obviously I have an allergy to gluten, so it's a little bit different, but in too much excess of anything is bad for you, especially those two things.
So you're going to want to increase your pre and probiotic consumption. This is so important just every single day, but at the same time, like if you have taken antibiotics at any point, and I mean, there's so much research coming out about it, about how when you're on antibiotics, you have increased symptoms of depression and anxiety. And that's because your little brain is not getting its fuel that it needs, and it knows that something's wrong. But probiotics, prebiotics, huge. There's actually a lot of research coming out that says, wow, you should definitely take these. They don't have the science down to like truly bring your gut health. Like if it is damaged or it's, you know, not as healthy as it needs to be, there's nothing that you can do to like immediately change your gut health. Like it's like such an overall holistic thing that you have to do, but probiotics are definitely not going to hurt you if you, cause you can't get that from a normal diet. And another huge thing is fiber. So continuing to eat fiber. I take really strong probiotics. When my dad got sick last year, he was on an IV antibiotic, and then my mom found these probiotics that are so strong that could because they actually have to get through your stomach line.
Right. I was going to say, so that's why I take these ones.
Yeah. So you need really strong ones. So I take those and they're amazing, and I will get you a label for that. But also this year I went on 4 rounds of antibiotics for an infection, a tooth infection that I got a wisdom tooth removed, and it was a horrible situation, but 4 rounds. And I mean, I had major personality shifts. So the probiotics were so huge for that.
Yeah. I feel like it's a really important thing to do. I also take a psychobiotic, which is like specific, the microbiome that they're targeting. And the production of those microbiomes is specific to the brain specifically and mental health overall. So I use that. And I take a probiotic and a psychobiotic, and those are by a company called Just Thrive Health. So you can find them online. We can put a link for both of the ones that Britton and I take. The last one is my personal game changer of I am obsessed with this stuff. I think if you guys are local to Reno and you follow, I know Amy Burkett's really obsessed with them, who owns Breathe Bar. I know that Tiffany Billman's obsessed with them. She owns, she's living Reno Tahoe. And then Madeline Aguilar's really into them too. So these are the digestion detox. We basically you want to, okay. So like Britton just said, this is a long-term thing. Okay. You're not going to be able to take probiotics and notice just in 24 hours a big difference. It's a long-term thing. It's depending on how bad your gut health is, you're going to have to, it's going to take longer for it to be repaired. So with these, I found that detoxing my gut actually in the digestive health of my stomach, truly helped so much. And these are unlike anything. I've done chlorophyll because chlorophyll is great for digestion. It's incredible for just detoxing the body. It's such a strong antioxidant. These ones by Juna's detox drops. This is what I take. I take them every single morning. It's the first thing I put into my body. These have been, like I said, such a game changer for me. I noticed a huge difference in my mental clarity and mood when I take these. So it's just I can be really, I almost feel like my ADHD has been taken down a notch almost. It's I can really focus on things. And then, I mean, we've talked about this, but my tiny little 2-pack, the muscle definition I've seen, I feel the water retention in my body, I'm not having as much water retention. But yeah, so we snagged a discount for y'all to actually try them. So if you guys go to Juna World, and it's JUNAWORLD.com, you guys can use code BOB20 to get 20% off of your purchase. So I highly, highly, highly recommend these. Like, I cannot stress that enough. You can ask Amy and Maddie and Tiffany about them too.
So another thing that you can do, like we preach on all the time, exercise. It actually raises serotonin levels, where most antidepressants focus on the production of serotonin. So it's like exercise already raises what you have. You don't want to overproduce serotonin, because then when you stop taking them, then it goes down. And so if you can just raise the serotonin levels that you already have, the existing ones in your brain, it is huge. And for the longevity, it's just essential. So exercise. I mean, I think that it is the one thing that all doctors prescribe for patients who are suffering anxiety, depression, anything like that. And also for people who are coming off of addiction. You know, their brain levels are really messed up, but one thing that they can do every single day is exercise.
You often find that people who have addictions typically transition their addiction to exercise.
Or to something else, but exercise is a healthy outlet.
It's the safe space to go to.
Exactly.
The next two kind of go hand in hand, and I'm going to wrap these up super quick, but trust yourself. So really just like understanding that everything that you need is inside you. Like, this goes back to the human design. Like, that really helped Britton and I to understand and validate how we felt and what we already knew to be true about ourselves. But it gave us the permission to like really say like, no, this is how my instincts function. This is how my intuition functions. Like, it's okay for me to respond like this. Yes, I need a nap, or like whatever yours is. Like, it's important to figure it out. Maybe you already know that naturally. I feel like I've had a lot of people tell me who I am. So it was helpful to like see it externally from like a source that made more sense to me and validated me. And then with that, really doing like a consumption check. I mean, content should be entertaining, educational, or spark joy. And if it doesn't do that, then you should remove it, minimize it, or mute it.
Totally. I love that. The last one is positive connection. Research continues to support the positive impact of social interaction on the brain. Studies go so far to indicate that social interaction is key to warding off dementia. This is so huge. You guys, human connection in being social is essential to your overall happiness as a person. And if you are in a depressive state, call a friend, get out there, go show up somewhere and just connect with people. We are missing that so much in our society. We talked to Emmy about it. Like, we just need that feel for connection.
I think it's interesting, and this just hit me as you were just reading that, like, it's important to maybe consider that your social anxiety scientifically is leading you to depression. If you were to push past the anxiety that you feel around going into social situations, you might find that it's not as scary as you originally thought. You also might find that you really enjoy social interactions. You don't have to enjoy everyone. I don't enjoy every social interaction.
Select ones.
Yeah. And just like
right ones.
Finding the place that makes you feel happy and makes you feel joy. You know, and they do say, research does show even basic exchanges with people keep our brain stimulated as it searches for thoughts and ways to organize them in an appropriate communication style. So, you know, it is that really brings us back to, you know, the ability to have mental stimulation. Is by socializing, your brain is challenged to you know, interact in a way that is good. But
and like, it makes so much sense, because think of people like the elderly.
Yeah.
A lot of them are getting dementia because they don't have that social interaction anymore, whether it be that they aren't able to drive themselves to their bridge club or to their book club or whatever it is, but they've lost some sense of freedom or their friends have all died off. You know, like, that is something that's major, and they don't have that like authentic social interaction anymore. And then the dementia starts, because they aren't getting mentally stimulated. Yeah. So it is so important while you still can socially connect.
We're pack creatures, you guys. We're totally pack creatures. And I think it's also important to remember that you're the sum of the people you surround yourself with. So I think it's also important to evaluate the relationships. Like I just said, not every social setting is for you, and that's okay. It shouldn't be. Sometimes you have to go into ones you don't want to, but you know, what's the payoff on that is important. You know, I think for me recently, just surrounding myself with people who encourage positive and healthy behaviors has been really, really paramount in my ability to be successful. I also think this is a big reason why community night is so successful and brings us all so much joy, because we come together as a group of small business owners to share each other's products. Like genuinely, we want each other to be successful. And we're out here just sharing our products and services with others.
And the customers who come, like every interaction we have with our customers, it just like makes us remember our why. And for the customers, they get to leave feeling good that they have, shopped local and have connected with the person who makes the product or the person behind the brand. And it's just, community night's such a great night. If you are someone who hasn't been, this is your cue to be social and get out and mentally stimulate yourself. But overall, you guys, the connection between our brain and body is so essential. We're going to get more into the gut and brain connection. But for now, just, pay attention to what you're feeding yourself.
Yeah.
And just guard your brain, guard your body with everything you have, because it is all we have. I was talking to Britt on the phone yesterday, and I was like, as we age, it's one or the other. It's either our brain that's going to fail us, or it's either our body that's going to fail us later in life. So while we still have both, take care of them. They're so intertwined, and it is just so essential for us to be able to live our purpose in life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as you go forward, the overall thing here is like, be kind to your body, be kind to your mind, and be kind to others. So we're going to leave you with that. You guys know the drill. I just blacked out for a second. I'm so sorry.
No, I thought that we were just going to end it, but okay. Yeah.
You guys know the drill. Follow along, Britt on Blast. Find us on BLFT Reno, Murdock Hats and Apparel, and Haven and Flux, wherever you guys are being social. If you guys liked the show, we would love if you would share us with your friends, subscribe and review. Those really help us like move our way up. You guys have really actually moved our way up. And we get noticed a little bit more because of what you've done on Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts. We appreciate it.
Download the episode. If you are listening to it, do us a favor and download it. It helps with our numbers so much, and it will help us continue
to bring you more content and really cool. We have some really cool guests lined up for you. So we're just excited to be able to bring you more and get really excited about some more educational stuff. So we're out here and we're going to mentally stimulate you guys. With that being said, we appreciate y'all so much. We hope you have a great week.
This podcast was a production of Angel Phoenix Productions. Explore more episodes of this show or other great shows on the Angel Phoenix Podcast Network by visiting angelphoenix.com. The views expressed in this show do not necessarily represent those of Angel Phoenix Productions or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.